Hi everybody, Cheryl and Lady coming to you from the Ladies Garden and Home, and it's a hot September day. We've got about 6 weeks until our first frost date average, and I thought it would be a great time to take you on a tour of the garden, so I hope you join us. So I'm standing in my side yard right now. It's kind of like the side driveway, and you know, just the garbage cans and that kind of stuff here. But I wanted to show you, firstly, what I did new this summer, and I got the permission from my neighbors first, which is I planted some sunflowers. These are Mexican sunflowers, and I was planning on planting them all the way down the driveway, but that didn't work out because of lawnmowers and things. But I just wanted to show you, I wasn't sure if this area would get enough sun, but it certainly did. So next year I'm planning to try this all again. Okay, so I've never brought you in through this entrance, and I kind of wanted to show you what it looks like when you just come upon a secret garden. Oh, a monarch. Come on in. Oh, he's got so big. So these are some more Mexican sunflowers, and I absolutely love them. Not only are they super prolific, the plant got much huger than I ever expected it to, but it just has these beautiful orange blooms, and then when it drops its petals, it has a lot of interest visually, and I really like the yellow centers. So this has been such a winner this year. A little bigger than I expected it to be, though. And the butterflies just love it. So this week we've had actually temperatures that have reached record highs in the low 90s, and it was pretty hot and humid here, but I was trying very hard to keep up with the watering. I'd be out here every day, and now it looks like tonight into all weekend it's going to be raining a lot, so I don't know what I'm going to do with the weekend off. Maybe edit this video. Anyway, so hopefully I did enough to keep them alive, but I'm going to show you this time starting this way and going around that way. This is the section that I don't like to really show on video much, but I do need a tool shed. This is just kind of like the dead space corner where I keep buckets and compost and stakes and things like that. But coming around here, you'll notice that these cherry tomatoes, although, you know, some of the older parts of the plant have died off, it's got all of this new growth. Now, this was a volunteer midnight snacker cherry tomato plant that self-seeded. It just dropped from last year and grew on its own, and you can see how huge and healthy it is. I love volunteer plants, especially vegetable plants, because they're usually very healthy. And then I've got these I call my supermarket tomatoes, because I had saved just little red cherry tomato seeds from the supermarket a number of years ago, and I missed having red cherry tomatoes. I had a lot of sun gold last year, and then I also had a yellow pear tomato plant. Also, there's 2 grow bags here behind these marigolds that's growing about 3 plants each, but the yellow one seemed to have died off pretty soon. And a lot of these plants, these tomato plants in particular, looked like they were on their way out the end of August, but now they've put on a lot more growth. They're getting like their second wind, and hopefully that incredible heat is past and they won't drop flowers, and I'll be able to get some more production out of them. Here's where I planted some sweet peas late in the season, so I'm getting a nice flush of color here, which is very pretty. And then this was a lemon queen sunflower That's facing my neighbor's yard, which I'm sure makes them happy because they love sunflowers over there. And then that's mixed in with all of this calendula, which is really just flowering so pretty right now. And then what I did, since there was a little empty space here, I think I had a borage plant or something there that I pulled. There's a little empty space, so I planted some bush beans in here. And I'm hoping, that was in August, I'm hoping to get a little bit of a harvest from that before the frost. And over here was another broccoli plant. My broccoli never died off. And as you can see, I'm still getting side shoots and florets. But I pulled one of the broccoli plants because that was not giving me florets, and it had completely flopped over and was taking up a huge space. And then I was going to completely pull this zucchini plant because I hadn't gotten any flowers on it all season, but instead I cut it back. There was just a big section of dead, and now as you can see, I've got a couple of buds coming. So I'm hoping that this will be productive also before the frost. And in here, I'm going to be planting some bok choy. I have some started inside in seedling trays, but I'm also going to start some from seed. And they are frost tolerant, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to have time to get that harvest. And over here we've got, I sowed some peas here, just about 5-6 days ago, and I've got my first little guy shooting up. This is why it's so important when it's hot and dry to really come out here and water at least every day to get those seedlings, because otherwise they'll start to come up and then they'll shrivel in the heat if they don't have enough water. And I've got a zucchini growing. These have not been as prolific as, my gooseneck squash, but I've gotten a good couple of very large zucchini, which is fine. I mean, I don't know how much I would eat anyway. This cauliflower was planted back in April before the last frost, and it's just starting to form its head now. So we're just leaving that in to let it do its thing. These were self-seeded marigolds. Some more tomato plants. It seems like the ones on this side are smaller than the ones on that side. And I don't know why, unless it's a light issue, because I've got the same kind of soil amendments. Here's another zucchini plant and some more bush beans that I planted that same day about 6 days ago. Over here in this bed is, believe it or not, on this side there's only three gooseneck squash plants, and they have been giving me a lot of fruit this summer. I have so many. I think what I'm going to do is make some kind of soup out of it and freeze it for the winter. Here's where I'm going to plant my brassicas, but it's still too hot to do that. And like I said in some of my previous videos, I am keeping the potatoes in the bags for now instead of pulling them, because it's a good storage place for them. Coming around on this side of the bed, I've got some zinnias growing up, and I've got a broccoli plant here. It's not as productive as the other one with the side shoots, but the one thing that it has going for it, and which is why I'm leaving it in, is I'm letting it act as a trap crop for whiteflies. And I'm hoping that, I don't know if you can see them, but they really are all over this plant. But what I'm thinking is that it's keeping them off of some of the other plants around it. And then I've got some peppers in here. I really like planting very thickly and also with a lot of diversity, because I really truly believe that it confuses a lot of pests. And then I've got some radishes here. Some pretty alyssum. A borage that just decided to pop up on its own. Actually, that marigold also popped up on its own with some real... I moved my hibiscus plant here because it hasn't flowered all summer. It's getting late in the summer for me to expect flowers. I certainly hope I get some, but I thought maybe it was getting too much shade in the area where I've had it, which was by the roses on the other side of the yard, and that gets shade for a good couple of hours a day, whereas this is more consistent. And over here on this strip, I've got carrots that are really coming along. They're not ready to be harvested. I have been thinning some of them, so I've been able to check. Some of them are very densely planted, so I've been thinning quite a bit, and I have more to do. But I've got some peppers, and although these pepper plants have been rather small compared to some of the other ones in my garden, they're still producing. This bed is looking really healthy. It was getting a little droopy in the heat, but the impatiens, the marigolds, these balsam that were volunteers have started to bloom, and aren't those pretty? And then up here on the wall are the begonias with some coleus mixed in. And the coleus have really gotten large and healthy. And last year I propagated these with one little branch that made 3 branches, and I transplanted them into here when I did the begonias. And this fall I'm going to take some more cuttings and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to overwinter them inside and propagate them. My houseplants have enjoyed their summer outside. The pansies that I put in the shade after it got too hot for them have just started reblooming again. So I'm excited that I'm going to have some fall pansies. The zinnias are flowering now and looking gorgeous. And the marigolds. And then over here, if you followed me in my summer gardening tips series where I talked about weeding, I really killed a lot of plants by letting them get overly weed infested. But as you can see, some of them have started coming back, this marigold. And I've also been scatter casting some carrot seeds from my flowering carrot plant. And now I'm starting to have like little seedlings. So that's good. I don't know if I'll get carrots from it, but at least I'll have something covering the ground. And I'm going to continue to do that while there's time for them to germinate. And then here's some zinnia seeds I also threw in here from a dead-headed flower. So that's starting to come up. I finally pruned back the lavender, and it's so much more manageable now. And it's important to do that just to make sure that next year's growth has some place to grow from. And then the medicinal herb bed, once I pulled the borage out of here, it looks really, really empty, but that borage was just flopping over and not looking good. I've got echinacea in here that I've been harvesting those flowers for. I make a tincture out of it, and then the calendula as well. I've got some Swiss chard in here, and I've also been scatter casting some carrots, and I think they're just starting. This nasturtium finally started to bloom, and look at what a pretty color that is. I had no idea what color it would be because it was in one of those mixed bags of seeds. These sweet peas are really, really dying out. I should pull them, but I think it's heartless when they're blooming to do that. So I'm going to let them continue to bloom. There's no rush. I'm not really going to be planting anything climbing here this fall. And then the eggplants have had a hard time of it, but they're just starting to rebloom again and give us some fruit. And then these carrots were also scatter casted after a carrot I left in here over the winter went to seed. And then the leeks are doing really, really well. In the last tour, they were all flopped over. I had waited too long to transplant them and their roots got all tangled up together. But with a little bit of fertilizer and a lot of water and patience, they're finally starting to grow nicely. I didn't notice this yesterday. It might have come on pretty fast, but the cucumbers in these grow bags here just are starting to get some kind of, what is probably some kind of bacterial or fungal issue. I don't think it's just plain old age, but I'm finally getting some cucumbers. And if you remember, I had peas in here in the spring. The mint is wild and crazy, and it's flowering now. Well, it looks like the clouds are rolling in. There's so much going on in this bed. It's so exciting to see everything kind of work together. It's the celery patch. Some of them that are going to flower are from last year, and then the really green ones below are the ones that self-seeded. I've got tomatoes finally ripening. If you can notice, as some vines start dying off, there are new vines that start shooting out a lot of growth. This is probably an even better example. You've got this vine that's really just on its way out, and it's doing the best that it can to ripen up those fruits on it. But then you've got this nice healthy branch that's still growing. The fennel is going to seed. The bees like it a lot, but they haven't ever bulbed up for me. I've got lots of fronds, lots of flowers, but no bulb. I'll have to look into that. From this side of this bed, you can see the basil. That's nice and healthy. More leeks. Some French marigolds, which are the miniature ones. Some dill that I scatter casted, and that's coming up. So hopefully I'll have a lot of dill this fall. And then over here, these are the San Marzano tomatoes. And then I've got a striped paste tomato that really was looking very lackluster in August, and so far it's just made such a nice comeback with a lot of fruit going on. I wish I had filmed this spot just a couple of days ago when so many of the roses were in bloom, but I deadheaded them yesterday. But we have some still blooming. But I really like this spot. I really do. I think it made a very nice focal point in the garden. Sometimes when it's really hot and no shade, the only place that's shady is right there. And I pull my chair over there and I just sit next to the roses for a little while. And I just wanted to bring to your attention this oddball broccoli plant that is just still growing. Nothing's ever happened to it. Never had any shoots, never had a head, but it's just all summer long. It's just been sitting there in its glory growing. And here is the wall of beans mixed in with peppers that are doing really, really well. If you followed me last year, you know that the pepperoncini plant was my single seed challenge, and I had, well, kind of the love of my life was Mancini, the pepperoncini plant, and he finally died early this spring. I laid him to rest. But this is his baby right here, this pepperoncini plant. This is from seeds that I saved from him, and look at how healthy it is. Then I've got the smaller cherry tomatoes, some starting to ripen. And then the carrots. They're starting to look like they're almost ready to harvest. It's the first one I've noticed it peeking its little neck out. Behind here, very shaded, but still alive, are beets. And I'm probably just going to pull them soon because you can see, oh, you can see their necks are popping out too. But these beans are very exciting. I've got some that are drying right on the vine for like soup beans and that kind of stuff. I've got Kentucky Wonder. And this is an odd one, and I'm wondering if this is a hybrid of some sort that happened because I had a lot of these volunteers. And that is, it's Chinese noodle bean, but it's not red. It's odd, isn't it? Some more drying. The ones that I can't reach, I just let them dry for seed saving. There's a normal colored Chinese noodle bean. And then these are scarlet runner beans. That's what the red ones are. And those are the ones that you can save for beans and not necessarily fresh eating. Although you could, I just find them kind of tough. Coming around here, we've got the original cucumber plants that I started in this, I would say in May, up on the deck so that animals wouldn't come and eat them up. But these got eaten up anyway by a groundhog that just cleared off almost all of the lower leaves. But as you can see, it kept on growing. And now it's really, really mixed in with the beans. Look at the size of this one. This bean pod here. Whew. In my last video, which was called Easing into Fall, I planted some potatoes, well, it was only 6 days ago, from the harvest that I had just taken out of the bag. I just kind of planted them back in. And they're already starting to come up. And what I'm hoping is that I'm going to have a little harvest of potatoes by December. Try as I might, I'm really having a hard time keeping up with deadheading the petunias. And at this time of year, they start looking like this, and I don't know. It seems like no matter how hard I try, they just look scrawny. This one's not looking too bad. This one's looking terrible. We're going to go up on the deck in a minute, but I wanted to show you from this side what the purple opal basil and the marigolds look like. Although I think the purple opal basil looks a little weird. It's kind of not really flowering too much anymore. They're all kind of going to seed, but it's really kind of magnificent looking. Coming up on the deck, there's the green stalk in all its glory, with lettuce going to seed, which I'm going to save when they're dry. But I wanted to show you the cherry tomato plant that was a volunteer, I think probably in the compost, and it's a sun gold. So that's exciting. It just happened to grow in the green stalk. This one here is a full-size, I'm thinking it's a Kellogg's Breakfast or a German striper. I'm not really sure. I thought it was a patio tomato. I have lettuce growing in here, and these are the varieties that are supposed to do a little bit better in the winter as opposed to the summer. Some that I just seeded not too long ago that are popping up. I'm experimenting to see if carrots will grow, and it looks like it has. There's some nice lettuce too. And this one was another tomato plant that I thought was a cherry, or a patio cherry, I should say. And it's not, but hey, it's working. I'm surprised because this is the green stalk with the shallower pots. Sage is looking good. I'm going to be pulling this. Well, I'm not going to pull it completely out, but I'm going to cut it way back and I'm going to bring it in and dry it. And the purple opal basil, the one that's purple, and the one that's genetically a little bit different, but it's from the same seed packet. Oh, I have some Swiss chard in here as well. So there's a lot of diversity in here. The 2-year-old paprika plant, those little peppers were on there for a very long time, almost like this whitish yellow, like this color right here. And just recently it started turning. So I'm going to wait for them to get red, and then I'm going to make paprika powder, which I did last year as well. And then this is my basil tree, as I call it. It's 4 years old. I really have to deadhead it, clip it back. The sugar baby watermelon, I think, is affected by the same fungus disease as the strawberry plants, I think. I don't know, but there's something in this section here. The artichoke grew out of it, but the strawberries and the sugar babies, I have to keep fighting it with peroxide and sometimes fungicide. But that's why it looks so crispy. But it still has a nice growing tip and some flowers on it. So hope is not completely lost. And like I said, with the strawberries, it's been really gangbusters this year, even despite this little fungus disease. So as you can see, it's still flowering. It has plenty of strawberries forming. The geranium loved this summer. Here's something cute. This is a volunteer Japanese maple. And I'm just letting it grow here, almost like a nursery. And then when it's large enough, I'll transplant it. But that's really nice. And then here are some very baby strawberries. I mentioned in my last video that when a strawberry goes over and it becomes overly ripe, I bury it. And then this is the result. All those little seeds on a strawberry can turn into a whole bunch of baby plants. And it's good to keep the strawberries going that way because they only live about 3 years before they peter out. So you always need to kind of refresh them in a rotation. So this works. This is my regular Italian flat leaf basil, which I love the most probably. And here is some cinnamon basil, which I also really love, but mostly not for cooking, mostly for cocktails. Taking a little closer look at Archie, the artichoke. Oh, Archie! This is my single seed challenge of 2023, and he had some problems also with that disease over here, but I've been clipping the outer leaves as they get dried up and funny looking, and it still has very healthy growth inside. Now this one is supposed to be perennial in zone 7 and higher, and I'm in zone 7A, and I'm hoping that here on the deck where it gets a lot of sun in the winter, up against the sliding glass door, it will have enough radiating heat from the house even if we have very, very cold weather like we did last year. We had a really cold winter at the very beginning. Oh, hi lady, say hello. It's too hot for her to be out here all day. So if you're wondering what the wall of beans looks like from this side, I should have done some better pruning. I think a little bit of that fungus issue is on these as well, but they've become very productive all of a sudden after weeks and weeks of waiting for beans. Then we've got the catnip, which I've been kind of not doing much with. Sometimes I'll take the head off and just kind of scatter cast the seeds for next year. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to get in your way, bees. The oregano, I had cut that back pretty hard to dry it, so it's just filling back out again now. And then these deck containers have cinnamon basil, regular flat leaf basil, patio tomato, old dill, new dill, lemon balm, sage, then this is a bigger tomato that I also thought was a patio, but it isn't. Oh, yellow jacket, get away. Ugh, this time of year the yellow jackets come. Ah! All right, this is from inside the house. I'm gonna wait for the yellow jackets to go, but if you can see, oh, maybe you can't, but I also have parsley. I have some cilantro that's just started peeking its head up. I've got some rosemary, thyme, and chives. So that's what makes up the deck containers. Okay, so what happened was, as I was waiting for the yellow jackets to go away, we had a bit of a downpour. We had thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. And anyway, so I decided to go inside and cook a little bit of a dinner with my vegetables from the garden. And anyway, so we have a bit of a break in the rain, although it is tremendously humid. Hello, humidity. I wanted to thank you very much for joining me today in my tour of the garden. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I hope you subscribe and join our growing little community here. And from the Ladies Garden and Home,